Greetings, this is the Timeshare Traveler, and today is episode 73. RV or timeshare depends on travel style. Really, the purpose of this video is to help everyone make the best choice. Some people it's timeshares like myself, other people it's RV. Clearly I'm giving the perspective from the timeshare perspective. But I tried to break out why my travel fits better with timeshares and what travel I felt would be better with RVs. Before I get into the details, I'll go through the overview and step by step. Let me tell you a little bit about my channel, and then we'll go right into the details. Hi, my name is Cliff, and I'm the Timeshare Traveler. The purpose of this channel is to provide education and knowledge for those interested in timeshares. I've been a timeshare owner for over 15 years. I'm an elite owner with Marriott Vacation Club, Hilton Grand Vacations, and Worldmark by Wyndham. I've also posted over 70 timeshare video reviews of different locations, and I've posted 40 timeshare video tips. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button below, and I can be found at Timeshare Trav on Twitter and Facebook, and my website is www.timesharetraveler.com. Let's start by going through the overview on this episode. So I'm going to go through my travel style that's more conducive to a timeshare, and the biggest cost drivers for my style, and then why my style works better for timeshares. And then just sort of some background. I'll go through some of the summary costs of just what an RV costs, what a timeshare costs, and these are generalities. Try not to pick them apart. I try to do general, and there's a wide variations, but I'll provide that. And then kind of the environmental differences between RV and timeshare, just to try to help you figure out what works best for you. And then I'll go through a summary of kind of how I view, based on your style, how you can sort of trade off what works best for you. Now I'm going to discuss my travel style and why I think it fits for the timeshare life more so than an RV. So I like Hawaii. I don't know, it's the ocean or whatever. And so I've traveled in the last couple of years, 2 to 6 months a year, and sometimes that's broken into a couple of trips. And so I really can't take an RV to Hawaii easily, and I don't live there. So if I lived there and I had an RV, that would make sense. And the other thing is I like driving trips. Now, I don't have a great car for traveling. It's about 35 miles per gallon. And an RV gets, and I use the number 12, and there's some that get a little more, some that get a little less, depending on what you're doing. But I just tried to use that as a number, so it's roughly a 1/3. And I wanted to get a better car so that it gets closer to one of the hybrids, so I can get in the high 40s, maybe even low 50s. And I typically drive across the country once a year, at least the last couple of years. That's what I've done. I might do it twice. But I also take, I'll call them regional trips, and I do some flights as well. So my typical driving trip when I go across the country is on the order of 2 months, maybe a little more than 2 months. And I stay in one location 2 days to a week, sometimes a little longer, but in general it's 2 days to a week as I'm driving across. I usually might be going visiting friends or family reunion, high school reunion, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my travel style, and it kind of is more conducive. And again, my goal for showing all of this is to try to give you a sense of, if you're on the fence of what you want to do, a timeshare or an RV. This gives you sort of a guideline that you can sort of use to just make it work best for you. But this is some of the reasons why I think I fit so much better in a timeshare. Another view to take a look at it more just from the cost, what I call the cost drivers, and that really is, and it's kind of the ones that matter as much, is gas prices. So this year I've noticed a little less RVs, just anecdotally, than last year, because the gas prices are above $4 a gallon, maybe 5 at one point. And again, the other drivers, how much time am I going to be spending in Hawaii? Because that's something I couldn't do in RV, and so I have to store the RV. I have to deal with it anyway. So that's kind of one of my cost drivers. I'll also look at maintenance costs per night. So it's really, I try to calculate how much in maintenance fees it costs to stay at a place. So if I'm staying a lot off peak, it's actually quite cheap. And when you're looking at that maintenance cost, that works. And you still have to pay often for a place to park the RV. You can do a lot of boondogling, but it's not typically what a lot of people do. The other thing is I buy at Costco, and that's really just a cost statement. You can do that. That works equally well with the RV, except it's hard to park an RV in a Costco lot. Actually don't see many of them, and so that's a way to save money on the food. So maybe the people have their vehicle that they're driving, but I don't see many of the buses either. The other thing is I don't have a pet. A lot of RV people, it seems to be like that's like a bottom line thing. If you got a pet, you kind of you don't take your dog or cat with you. You're going to have to have an RV because most timeshares don't allow for that. I like to cook, and so that's really it's just a cost driver, but that works whether you're in an RV or in a timeshare. Maybe a little bit of an added benefit in timeshare because you're typically there a week and you don't have to do the final cleanup. Whereas if you're in an RV, it's your house and you're going to constantly, keep it clean. Where I have the sort of benefit at the end of my stay at that location, I don't really have to clean up. So because my style is typically shorter stays, the real savings in RVs on the, staying in the parks and so forth is when you're staying for longer term meaning like a month. So my style is more that I'm going to various locations and I'm not sort of stopping one or 2 days. I'm not staying for long. So a lot of the benefits in the parks are when you're staying there longer. Obviously you can stop by the side of the road with the RV, so there's another way to do it. But just in general, because of what I'm doing, I'm a little more makes sense for me. And again, my trade-off is I have a short drive from the timeshare that I'm at to the scenic location as opposed to parking by the side of the road. Anyway, those are my cost drivers, and I think that should help you sort of see what works best for you. My next section is the buy and maintain, and I'm using higher prices than you need to use, but I wanted to look at like a new RV, like a large RV, and even if you get a trailer, you're going to have to buy a truck. So those can be 70 to 80,000 new plus 50 to 80,000. So I picked 200,000, and you can argue that why I picked that number. But if you're getting a bus, 200,000 is a good number, maybe even a low number. But so I compared that. 200,000 and a timeshare gives you 10 to 12 weeks in Hawaii, so it's even the highest place. And again, depends on exactly what you're doing. And that gives you all the last minute specials for $1,300 a month. RVs for the bus size, kind of comparable to a timeshare, is somewhere in the 250 to 400K. And again, you can maybe get around it, but when I try not to do the cut corners, because you can buy timeshares used, and then you're paying a lot less. So I was just trying to keep things as best as I could at kind of the retail level. And again, the one thing about the RVs, if you use them a lot and you live a long time, you're going to have to buy multiple because you use it up just like a car. So that's a little bit of a downside. Again, just from my perspective, I'm actually using my timeshares a lot. So that would be using the RV comparable. So I'd probably end up having to buy a couple more even at my age. My maintenance fees for that same 200K is roughly $8K per year. And I made an estimate of $4K in gas. That's one trip across the $4,000 across the trip plus a couple local. And that's not my day-to-day living driving. So more like when I'm in travel mode. And driving 20,000 miles a year, which is kind of what I do in my car. I think I'm even low on this 15 to 20K in gas. And that depends on what you're doing. And the maintenance fees and other fees are probably $2,000 a year. That's changing the oil and all those various things. And I'm probably being conservative on hopefully I'm doing that on the maintenance fees on the RV. So anyway, there you have it. Let me jump to the next topic. I added a section for using and miscellaneous fees for the timeshare. You have, because I mentioned the short last term specials, add another 2K to 5K depending on how much you do it, and that gives you somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5 to 3 months of doing that. Last minute specials and RV slots at campgrounds can be between 30 and $70 a night. They can go higher, they can go to 100, but again, I'm trying not to, this is not a precise, it's just trying to give you a feel for what works better for you. So that turns into about the same 5K, whether you're doing last minute specials or covering for the usage fees. And then miscellaneous fees, you're going to have minor costs for Wi-Fi, but most of the free places, utilities are definitely included. I think in an RV, if you want to actually have Wi-Fi, you can get the roaming, like I guess the SpaceX has a thing you can put on your RV, so you'd be able to have it wherever you are. That's really cool. You have to, there's garbage fees that's usually included in at the parks and so forth. There is no gym like you do with timeshares, but that may not matter. You're out in nature, so maybe you don't need a gym. Anyway, those are the usage and maintenance fees. Maybe I'm lazy, but the environment is really the thing that does it for me. I mean, I understand you can wake up in nature. When I'm staying in Hawaii, it's I wake up in Hawaii and I'm out the door, or when I'm staying at some of the places right on right next to national parks, it's maybe not as outdoorsy as the RVs, but my experience is, unless you're out parking on your own, you're inside a location that's got a park with a bunch of other RVs, so you're not really out in nature. So the bottom line is, I wake up every day with a pool, a gym, and a jacuzzi. Call me lazy, call me whatever, but that's what I want. And if something breaks, I dial zero. I don't have to become a mechanic, and I really didn't want that. And particularly as I get older, the more older I get, the more I don't want that. So that, again, it's not a judgment. It's just helping you think through what matters for you and help you make the best decision for yourself. So I want to provide you my perspective. There are other perspectives out there. So please research other people. And so if I wake up in an RV, it's kind of like waking up in a campsite. Now that campsite could be all by yourself out in the, by the side of the road. But often when you're in the parks, and I looked at the parks just to get a sense, you're really pretty close to other people with RVs. So it's not as out in the middle. Can't take the RV to Europe or Hawaii. Those are just other places as well. Setup and maintenance are self-done or very expensive. So the setup, when you pull into a place or when you get ready to go, the setup to get ready to go is much more complex than I'm going to get in my car or I'm going to get on a plane and go to a timeshare. And again, the biggest issue for me that really, was I want to wake up in kind of the pool and jacuzzi environment. But I don't really want to run the risk of having to maintain an RV in my 80s. And ultimately the cleaning is my responsibility in an RV, including cleaning the toilet. So that just wasn't the environment given the choices I had to make. And again, there's something about taking care of everything yourself. So I don't want to disparage the RV person. It's just what worked best for me. And again, I'm trying to give you my perspective so it can help you make those decisions. Okay, let me just go through the summary here at the end, just in case there's been a lot of information I've provided. So I'll try to hit what I think the key points are. For a timeshare, if you like to travel across the globe, you don't want to just be tied to the domestic U.S. and Canada and Mexico where you can get to, then that's the plus for timeshares. If you like driving trips with multiple stops and, some days 2 days, some days a week, and that flexibility. And also if you like short trips, usually either kind of like you don't care whether it's an airfare, you want to make a quick trip across the country, stay for 4 or 5 days, come back, or a week or whatever, or you want to do a local trip just for the weekend. Timeshare works with that all within those, and there are trade-offs, pluses and minuses on costs. Can't cover everything in this video. RV, I think it's good if you stay in locations for long periods of time. a lot of the people that are most successful usually stay in 3 or 4 places for long periods of times, and they kind of have a routine where they like to go various places. Not to say that's all they do, because they can vary their trips, and they can do some cross-country travel knowing it's a little more expensive for gas, but that doesn't mean you don't splurge and don't plan and don't execute those things. So this is just a general guide for you to think about which one's going to work for you based off what your majority of travel likes to be. The other thing is, if you have a pet, I mean, really, the RV is your choice. You can stay in some hotels, but there are limited hotels with pet friendly. So the RV is, if you're a pet person, the RV is a really good thing for you. And I think to offset some of the gas, if you've got places close by, if you're in an area that you like to go to, kind of get out of your house or whatever and go somewhere, then having short trips close by where the gas does not create a burden, I think that's really makes sense. And if you don't want to take that many trips outside the continental U.S., Mexico, and Canada, then the RV is a good alternative for you. Anyway, I hope this really helped. I was just trying to put together kind of it's really a travel style and kind of matching what works for timeshare versus what works for an RV. I'm obviously a timeshare person, so I know the timeshare better, and it actually fits me a lot better, so it's natural that I ended up here. So I don't mean to disparage the RV people. It's just it wasn't the best thing for me. I investigated a lot of it before I made my decision, and I'm glad I made the decision for me, not necessarily for everyone. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe.